Welcome to today's show, Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Burgess, passionate, inspirational speaker, author, poet, and entrepreneur. Welcome to Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm delighted that you joined me today. I want to give a big thank you to those of you who are listening. And here's a great big shout out to all of you listening around the world. I'm delighted and so grateful that you tuned in. I sure hope you're enjoying a fabulous day today and that you're having a fantastic week. Because you know what? In the grand song of the universe, life is very, very short. It's short and oh so sweet and precious. So I hope you're making a difference in your own life, because when you do, you also make a difference in someone else's life. A lot of folks want to make their life count for something. And they ask me, Dr. Gloria, how do you do that? Well, it's simple. It's very simple. You make your life count day by day, step by step, moment by moment, every single day, 365, 24/7. That's what Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count is all about. You can learn more about Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count by visiting the Gloria Burgess website. That's Gloria, B as in boy, URGESS.com. The Gloria Burgess website. Again, that's Gloria, B as in boy, URGESS.com, or by visiting Facebook. And you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/DrGloria Okay? All right. Today, I want to talk with you about the power of a poem. That's right, the power of a poem. Can I just tell you something? This is going to be a great show today. You don't want to miss a single word. So grab your earbuds, put on your walking shoes, or find yourself a comfortable chair. Make yourself a nice cup of tea or coffee, or pour yourself a nice cool glass of water. We're going to have a great time. Now, before I jump into today's topic, I want to take a moment to welcome you. If you're just joining us, I'm your host, Dr. Gloria, and this is Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'd like to extend a special welcome to those of you who are joining my podcast, or if you're joining Talk Network Radio for the very first time. You're in for a real treat. I'm excited to have you listening in today, and I'm deeply honored that you've allowed me to be part of your day so you can be inspired by the ideas and resources to make your life count. Today's podcast is all about the power of a poem. Now, what do I mean by that? Does a poem really have power? Well, of course it does. Inside the words, inside the rhythms, inside the music of poems, inside, that's where the power resides. Poems offer us so much. They can be a bridge, the kind of bridge that transports you from wherever you are into another place altogether. A bridge that opens you to a new understanding of who you are and your calling in the world. A poem can be a bridge that connects us one heart to another, that connects us across countries and across cultures, and our own self-imposed constraints. Poems also have the power to help us bridge our internal world with the external world. David White, one of my favorite poets, talks about this power in this way. He says, the poet lives and writes at the frontier between deep internal experience and the revelations of the outer world. There is no going back once this frontier has been reached. A new territory is visible, and what is said cannot be unsaid. Poetry, he says, is a break for freedom. I just love that. Now, when you think about it, poems are also said to be dangerous. Now, why is that? Because a good poem is like a dare. A good poem dares us to hit the pause button. That's right. Now, in today's fast-paced world, where speed is valued and time is money, poetry invites us to slow down, to pause, to walk, not run, to pay attention, to not give in to the inauthentic and the superficial. A good poem dares us to see through the eyes of another, to walk a few steps or maybe even a few miles in someone else's shoes, in someone else's experience. A good poem dares us to love what is unlovely, love what is forsaken or forgotten, or maybe even turning the mirror towards ourselves. You know, sometimes we feel a little unlovely, forsaken, and forgotten too. A good poem dares us to not only love, but also to feel pain and loss and grief and loneliness. It dares us to let go of our strategic mind and to embrace the personal, the intimate, the necessary darkness and bleakness in our own and others' lives. You know what? A good poem dares us to be transformed. Now, if you're like me, you really enjoy poetry, even if you don't really know why. And sometimes it's not important to know why. It's just important to enjoy the words, the rhythms, the music. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the purpose of poetry. Or more accurately, let's talk about the purposes. Because poetry has many, many purposes, many, many uses. So I want to begin by asking, what difference can a poem make? Now that's a great question, isn't it? What difference can a poem make? For me, I can tell you that without a shadow of a doubt, poetry has made a difference in my life. I know a lot of folks say that, don't they? Why do I say it? Well, poetry made a difference in my life, but not just any kind of difference. It made a significant difference in my life. In fact, it would be accurate to say that poetry actually saved my life. That's right. Now, how did that happen? Well, poetry helped me connect the dots between my lived experience as a little black girl who was born in the rural South of the United States. Someone who grew up surrounded by many, many people in what I call my personal village. Now, when I was a little girl, I looked daily into the face of my elders, all the elders in my personal village, who looked just like me, only older, right? They had eyes like mine, and lips like mine, and cheeks and hair like mine. Poetry was there for me when my family moved from my personal village, from the deep South to the urban North. When I left that world of familiar faces and my personal village, when I left behind all the people who loved me, who cared for me, who wanted me, when I moved from that world of belonging into this new and unfamiliar world, poetry was that bridge for me. It actually helped me connect the dots between what I had known and what was so new and unfamiliar to me. You see, in this new world, I suddenly found myself surrounded by a sea of white faces in my neighborhood, at the grocery store, at school. I mean, this was a totally new experience for me. It was what we call a culture shock, only I didn't really even know what that meant back then. I mean, I had no language for what I was going through, no language for this new, very uncomfortable, unfamiliar world. But even though I didn't have language for it, I knew inside how I felt. And my feelings ranged from feeling scared and alone and out of place. They ranged from fear to sadness, sometimes from feeling afraid and lost to feelings of confusion and even anger. I didn't even know what I was angry about or who I was angry at. I just knew that I felt so alone. I felt like I didn't fit in. I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like no one outside of my family really cared for me. Now, as a 10-year-old, I didn't have the words that I now have as an adult. But what I did have was this sense of dread, this sense of lingering doubt, of fear, of sadness, of insecurity, and feeling so alone. I knew that I was unanchored, adrift, and I felt as though I was sinking in this huge ocean that was way bigger than me. Again, without having all of those words for what I was going through at that time in my life, I felt that whatever was going on was way bigger than little old me. But I was powerless to do anything about it. I also knew that poems provided me with something to hold on to and a way to hold on. I also had an incredible experience that changed everything. That's the experience that saved my life. I remember that moment in my life as if it happened just yesterday. I remember being in the 6th grade, and my teacher, her name was Mary Jane Gillespie. My classmates and I called her Miss G. I remember one day, a day that started out like so many other days. During recess, I was sitting inside while all the other kids were outside playing and enjoying themselves, playing tetherball or foursquare or tag or soccer or just hanging out together and laughing and talking. And I was sitting inside the room with my head down on my desk, having my own private little pity party, right? Now, what was I doing? I was feeling alone, and I was feeling sorry for myself. Now, when I was in grade school, the teachers still wore dresses or skirts, and they also wore high heels. They wore pumps, okay? That was back in the day, right? So this particular day, I was sitting in my classroom during recess. I had my head down on my desk, and then I remember hearing that click, 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 click of high heels, and I knew right away it was Miss G by the sound of the clicks. Her footsteps got closer and closer to my desk, and then they just stopped. I remember hearing this little plunk of a sound and feeling a little gust of cool air as she put something on my desk beside my head. Then I heard the click, click, click of her heels as she walked away and out of the class.